We all have our own biases of how things work. Like how would I design things? Like why would I design things in a certain way? Because in my head, I'm the one who's gonna use it. But in reality, right, what about everybody else? How are they gonna use this product?
In your team, you need to create that safe space that they can say whatever they want to say within the context of work pa rin, syempre. Like, if there's a certain process that needs to be cut, or if they think that we're having too many meetings in a week, sige, let's consider removing some.
Most of us are using mobile devices. Most of us are spending time online. So cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Hello, good evening to everyone. And I'm Andresito de Guzman, a software engineer at Senti AI and the community lead for PWA Pilipinas. So tonight, I'll be introducing to you progressive web apps. The smartphone. So over the years, smartphones along with the internet had been an integral part to society in bridging humans together regardless of how far you are from each other. In just a few taps, one can send a message to relatives over Messenger, for example. And one can even send photos of videos of joy, of sorrow, and of hope, and everything in between that. We use devices to connect, to work, and even to play anytime, anywhere, even in the midst of the metropolitan's never ending traffic, and even today as we fight the virus outbreaks. And we've even gotten truly as far as using our phones to hold our cash. Truly, many of us are now living a truly digital lifestyle. But of course, the driver of all of these are the native apps that we install through the App Store, like the Play Store and Apple's App Store. There's one saying that for anything you need, there's probably an app for that. And truly, that's almost the case, given the thousands upon thousands of apps on these stores available today for you to download. So, what are the different pros of the native app store, the apps that we are typically aware of? First is that it speaks the native language of the smartphone. So, in layman's term, it's fast, um, and it just works on your phone. You don't have to worry about is it going to work on that. And also it allows offline use. So basically you just download it from the store and anytime you need it, it's there for you. And it's engaging and powerful because since it speaks the language of the smartphone itself, so it could immediately take advantage of the different hardware that is available on the phone, like GPS and the camera. And also, it's what's available on app stores. Meanwhile, the cons of native apps is that, of course, you need to install it first through the app store that I've just said earlier. And sometimes it could be large. It could even take gigabytes for games. But is there any other options for this? Of course, there's the web. If we look at this example, if you just try to show it to anyone and ask them, um, if I'm going to show you this, can you tell me what it is? Then most of them most likely would be able to tell you that it's the URL for Facebook, which is a web app. So, web apps. So, we all know what web apps are. They're Facebook that you use on your browser, or Twitter, twitter.com. What are their pros? Of course, first, it's familiar. The web has been here for many decades already, and it works everywhere. Just open up a browser. You could use Chrome, you could use Safari, you could use Edge, and it just works. And also, it's easy to share because it has a URL that you could easily share across your social networking accounts and messaging apps. And it's equally engaging as well because it's interactive and allows you to do stuffs. But of course, like any other pieces of technology, there are also cons. First is that, of course, since it's a web app, as we know it, you need internet at all times just to do basic stuffs. And sometimes it's not even optimized for mobile. That's why you typically prefer to install Facebook app from the Play Store instead of opening m.facebook, for example, because it's just smoother than the web app. And sometimes internet can also be expensive, especially here in the Philippines, that there are not much cell sites available. And now let's look at progressive web apps. So the thing here is that what if we combine the beauty or the native apps and web apps together? And what we get is progressive web apps. So basically, what's progressive web app? So basically, it's typically your web app that adds native app functionality. So basically, it's still your web app, but it just has some progressive enhancements that's available to native apps. So some of its key features is that, of course, it works offline. Wow, like the beauty of native is it works offline, but web apps can do it now. Also, it's installable, just like a native app, and equally engaging because it has push notifications and more. And the best thing or the good thing about this is that it's smaller than most native apps that you usually know. And just like what I've said about the benefit of the web is that it has URLs, so it's easily shareable to your friends and family. And that additional to that is that it's searchable from the web. So I'm going to show you a demonstration of the on how beneficial web apps uh, over native apps. As I've said earlier, is that typically with native apps is that you need to install it first, but with web apps that you don't necessarily have to install it first. It's like, for example, Facebook.com. So you could open it on your browser and use it first. So let's try doing that thing here. Okay, there. as I've said earlier, is that since the web is easily shareable and ubiquitous and easy to access compared to native apps, one of the benefits of this is that you can tap additional new use cases wherein, let's say, your user might uh, where you want your user to be able to use or do a certain task immediately without um, having them to install it first. The beauty of progressive web apps is that we can do that, and through QR codes, since we have URLs of which we would use QR codes to share it to others, we can make that we can make different use cases for that are practically unsolvable by native apps before. So here are some examples of progressive web apps in case you haven't um, gotten a grasp of it yet. So let's look at some of the international examples first. First is Twitter. So I believe that most of us here have tried Twitter.com already. And congratulations, you're already using a progressive web app. So how would you know if it's a progressive web app? Try going offline and opening that address again. So if you don't see the dinosaur or Stan, the dinosaur, then most likely it's a progressive web app because it works offline. Okay. Um, and also sometimes it would prompt you. So it is say if you're using a phone, it would prompt you if you would like to install it on your phone. So if you try using twitter.com on your phone, it might prompt you to install it there. Also, Instagram.com. So if, for example, you don't want the full size of the app that's on the App Store, you could just simply go to Instagram.com and use that progressive web app. It's ready for you anytime. And also Tinder. So yeah, if you're using Tinder and you don't want to install the full-fledged app, you can just simply open Tinder.com and it works just closely similar to the native counterpart. But of course, the good thing about progressive web apps is that we have some examples available here already in the Philippines, or um, here are probably some of the examples that we can take advantage of, or some of the sample use cases for our country. So first is in industries. So the first example is Click Shop by 7-Eleven Philippines. This is one of the best examples for progressive web apps since um, they really they really invested heavily on progressive web apps to the fact that they don't have a native counterpart for this offering. Though we cannot access it right now because of the pandemic, but before it works really well. So, for example, you buy something from that shop, from the Click Shop. The good thing about this is that even when you're offline, you could see the code to claim your product. So, for example, you go to 7-Eleven and you don't have an internet connection, you can open that web app and show the code to claim your product that you just bought. So, that's the nice thing about it. Also, so you could see there that you could install it to your phone by adding it to home screen. Also, Shop SM. Since we're currently on a pandemic and most of the shoppings are now done online, you can also access the wide offerings of SM department store through the SM through shopsm.com. So you just simply have to open shopsm.com or scan this QR code if you'd like to. It's better if we try to demo it right now. Okay, let's make this smaller so that you would see it. Okay. There. You could probably see my screen right now. So let's just try the experience for ourselves. So But I'm not going to buy. I'm just going to show you how beneficial progressive web apps are. So let's say you have a QR code here, and let's just open it. Okay, there you go. And you could already purchase what you want easily without even installing anything. So if you like it to stay on your home screen, just add it to your home screen, and it would be installed. There you go. Okay, it would be added there. Also, if you've been a Kapamilya and really wanting to watch Kapamilya show, since um, the Kapamilya channel is solely off online, so you can use I Want the web app instead of installing their native app. You just have to scan the QR code or open beta.iwant.ph. So let's try doing that. So there you go. Let's see if we can log in. There. Uh, hmm, I'll log in first. Wait. Okay. Hmm. Let's try logging in again. Well, anyway, my internet is kind of slow right now. But um, for example, you want to install it, just it would prompt you and would ask if you'd like it to add it to your home screen. Just click on add, and it would be available for you. Oh, there. And if you also want notifications, you can simply select that. Yes, we're logged in now. So let's try that. Okay. Hmm. There you go. Let's see. There. So as you can see, you could watch your favorite Ang Provinciano typically anytime, anywhere, literally. So yeah. Okay. Let's try another example. Here are some of the fun examples. No? In transportation, for example, I'll be showing to you one of the progressive web apps. So since I've already told you that benefits of progressive web apps is that you don't have to install anything. So in transportation, everyone's on a rush, right? And any apps that about transportation that needs to be installed could be hard to sell to people, unlike progressive web apps that, just like what we did earlier, this could be shared through a QR code. Um, could be something that would entice users. So, an example, let's say I wanted to ride the LRT one, and I wanted to know at which station should I go down, or um, how far am I from the station where I'm going to go down. So This is Project Trend. So this is a train tracker for LRT1, and um, basically tracks your train rides using the GPS of your phone. So let's try that. Okay. Mhm. There you go. Let's try that. So we just have to scan it. So let's say example, you're already at the station, and I just want you wanted to use it immediately. So there's the QR code ready for you. So just have to scan it. There you go, and you would see that you could open it, and as easy as that, right? You can already use the app. No installation required. So let's say I'm going to, oh, of course, since this is the web, this is safe, of course. That's why it has permissions that you have to either allow or block. So you know you're safe, and you should only give permission to those web apps that you trust. So this one, I trust this one, so I'm going to allow it. And there's a prompt that allows us to install. So let's do that. And while that's happening on the background, I can already use the app. So let's try going to EDSA, for example. So there, um, it tracks your real time. As you can see here, that you can even see the real time speed and how at exactly what time you're arriving there. And you could also share your ride. So that's one of the beauty of progressive web apps, that it's engaging. So you could either tweet it or share it to your newsfeed. So there. So for example, um, oops, the built-in message says that I wanted to let you know that I am currently at Yamaha Monumento. You may also track and share at which exact LRT official LRT1 station you're nearby with Project Trend, and you can easily tweet that or share it to your friends. The good thing about this one is that it has a real-time tracking, so your friend could also see at which exact station you're currently in. So yeah, this is working. You could actually install it on your device. So if ever that everything becomes normal again, you can try it out. How about progressive web apps in food and beverage industry or quick serving restaurants? Well, as we know right now that fast foods are fighting against are fighting for your money or for your attention. So being able to adapt using progressive web apps and making your service available even faster to your customers is critical. So okay, so let's look at one example um, of this scenario. So for example, Quick Eats. So this is a progressive web app where you could order meals, and it would be delivered to your home. So let's say it's lunchtime and I wanted to eat. So what would I do? I could just simply open my QR scanner and scan for the QR code. Let's say I saw this on Facebook. There you go. And in just a few moments, it will be ready for me. Okay. Let's just wait for it to load. It's better than installing native apps, right? Okay. Hmm. Let's try that again. Okay, there. Okay, it's starting to load, so let's not wait any longer. Let's tap the sign in with mobile number. Okay, it's just that our internet's a little bit slow right now. So I'll put my number. Wait, I'll put it first. Mm, there you go. As you can see that we can add it to our home screen immediately. So while that's installing, we could already order. So let's try that. Okay, so just like what happened earlier, so you just give permission to what hardware hardware APIs you might need. So for example, this one requires my location, so you would allow that. So there, and the yeah, it shows my address, but let's try doing that. Yes. So what do you want to order? Let's choose. Hmm. What do you want? Let's get a curricular for sharing. Let's get one of that and a cup of rice. Okay. Oh, I'm good. So there you go. You can see that the total is 270. You could check it again if you'd like to remove something or add something. Then we could proceed to payment. Mhm. There you go. So you could either choose to pay in cash on delivery or pay with credit card. So let's see if pay with credit card works. And yeah, it works. But we have to add the card first. So um, okay. So since it requires to add and I'm too lazy and I have cash anyway, so let's not do that. But you could also do that if you have credit card or debit card. That's one of the beauty of the web already. So let's say you used that card on a different merchant, you could just simply use it for this for another merchant easily without having to fill up any forms again. So anyway, let's try cash on delivery instead. And there you go. Would be delivered to us shortly. And there, that's fast, right? I didn't have to install anything. So um, let us now proceed to the next one. Museums and galleries. Progressive web apps are also good to be used for a single use or to the places that you don't go often use cases. So just like museums that you don't go often every day, they could offer you instead of making you install an app that you have to keep on your phone for a really long time, you could just have this app. You could already, I mean, they could offer you an app that you could just use within your stay, and once you're done with that, you could um, exit from that app, or you could have it installed. So let's say um, the National Museum of Fine Arts, for example, what if we built a progressive web app for them? So that's what I did. So for a demonstration, museum, um, it's, it uses machine learning and progressive web apps to distinguish paintings and other artworks. So let's try that. So let's say example, I'm going to visit the art museum. Okay, it's there. Okay, here's my camera. There you go. So imagine that this is placed on the door or at the entrance. So, mhm. Oops, let's Try that again. There you go. And that fast. So let's try doing that. Okay, it's just like earlier. It's just ask for whenever it's needed. For this time, it needs my camera. So let's allow that and save video. So let's try this one. This artwork. What is this? So the good thing about is that let's say you're roaming around and you just wanted to know about a certain sculpture or artwork. You point your phone to that sculpture and it would know what sculpture that is. So for example, it's correct. It's the retablo. So you can share this to your friends or learn more about it. Just have to press learn more, for example. Let's try another one. Okay. So if you have scanned the QR code earlier, you could also scan this one. So you could try it out on this one. So let's try this. There. It's the bust of Ricardo Carnicero. It's correct. Um, let's try this famous one. So I don't know if you don't know this, but let's say example you don't know. So there, the spoliarium, right? See, it's so interactive. You don't even have to install anything up front. That's the beauty of it. And I hope you're getting the idea now. Since I've shown you multiple examples, like let's say for example, you would find the use case for malls, for example, contact tracing, right? Most of these malls have their own proprietary um, apps, or you have to write it down. So what if we just use progressive web apps for that? So you just have to scan the QR code, fill in your details, and right, no physical contact. Unlike what others are doing right now, they're asking you to fill up the form, and guess what? You're using the pen that is also used by the person that went in before you, right? So doesn't make sense, but this makes sense since you just have to scan it, you don't have to touch anyone, and you keep everyone safe. This is a really good use case for that. No, you don't have to install anything as well. So for those contact tracing apps that needs to be installed first. Uh, so why is it called progressive web app? So let's have a little bit of retrospective on that word. So progress, that means to move forward or to have an onward movement towards going somewhere, towards a destination. So the one who coined the term progressive web apps, one of the is Alex Russell. So he said in one of his blog posts is that progressive web apps are apps that are not packaged and deployed through stores. They're just websites, just like your ordinary websites, just took the right kind of vitamins. So a good thing about them is that they keep the web's ask when you needed permission model, just like what we've seen earlier about the camera, about the GPS, that it asks us first if we want it, hence making it secure. And it also adds in new capabilities, like it can be on the top level of the task switcher, and could be on your home screen, and even in your notification tray. So just like what we did earlier when we installed these progressive web apps, right? Users don't have to make the heavyweight choice up front and don't implicitly sign up for anything dangerous just by clicking on a link. So any sites that wants to send you notification or be on your home screen have to earn that right over time as you use them more and more. Just like what we did earlier with the museum app. So if you don't want to use the camera, you don't want it to use the camera, you can just say no, and it won't bother you anymore. So that's how they become progressively turned into apps. That's why they're called as progressive web apps. So as you can see, another uh, statements about progression. So in terms of progression, the site begins its life as a regular tab, let's say opening facebook.com or twitter.com. So it doesn't have any superpowers, but it is already built with progressive app features like being secure, having service workers, which I would going to tell you later about, and it also looks good on mobile and on different devices. Um, so when the user frequently uses that app or prefers to keep it on their devices, that's when you get to install it. So when it so that's the time when it could be called as installed. So when you launch it from the home screen, these app, so when you install it, they become just like any other apps you get from the Play Store or the App Store, but they're top level, like a work full screen and even work offline. So um, of course they work offline already since step one. So if you try to open twitter.com offline, you could already kind of see something when you're offline, not the dinosaur. That means it's already offline. But when you install it, you can make it feel more of an app because it won't have these browser tabs. So as you can see earlier with what we did with Project Trend, we scanned the QR code and let's say I wanted to install it because it looks good or it has an importance to me. I click that um, sheet, they call that bottom sheet below, and it would show you a modal and it gets installed. So the next time so let's say after you click that ad, it would close and you could use it. So for the next time you wanted to use it, you just go to your home screen or to your app launcher, open that app, in this case Project Trend, and it's available for you anytime, even when you're offline. And just like what it's being said earlier, since it's top level, so if you wanted to, it has its own personality on your phone. So if you wanted to close it, you could just close it like any other apps you've known. So since we know already about progressive web apps and why is it progressive and why is it good for many use cases, especially here in the Philippines, especially during a pandemic, is that it works on all form factors. Unlike your native apps that you have to only build for touchscreens, um, some of the feature phones available, like you see here in the picture, that's uh, that's a KaiOS powered phone that could access the internet, could build progressive web apps to them, and you could make it available to even more people since these phones are cheap and yet they could already access the internet. Hence, you could target more users that are on a budget or who just wanted some more kind of simplicity over smartphones. And also they're ubiquitous. Unlike apps that just works on phones or tablets, it's the web. So you can just basically open it on a browser, on your desktop browser, on your smart TV, on your refrigerator, on your washing machine, or anything that has the internet and that has a screen, that has a browser. You can open it and use it. And also, it's platform independent. Regardless of what operating system you're using Windows, you're using iPad OS, you're using Android. Imagine building for all of these platforms. You don't have to, you just need to build one. Hence, it's cheap, right? It's cheaper to build one since you only need to build once and be able to make it accessible and successible. You can make it accessible to everyone since they don't need to install anything upfront. And also, as you can see there, you can build for the next generation of devices faster, like for the Galaxy Fold or to the upcoming Surface Neo and Surface Duo. Surface Duo is coming very soon. So it's better that you already be able to cater to that form factor we have different APIs that you could take advantage of that would allow you to use a larger display or resizable display or dual displays. For example, the API to be used is the web screen enumeration API, which enumerates how many screens you have. So it's also good even if it's not a dual screen device. It could also be good for computers that have many monitors. And just like what I've said earlier, the rising progressive web apps have some examples here already in the Philippines. Let's look at why is it gaining traction right now. So first is that it's convenient to your users since installation isn't necessary for you to use it. But you could also install it if you'd like to. And it's also fast, right? Given that just like what you saw earlier on the video, that you could do things faster using web apps than native apps that you have to install first. And of course, here in the Philippines, we have a really slow and expensive internet. So if you've seen me earlier being disconnected or not being in the stream, so yeah, it's the reality. We have a slow internet. Not people, not all people are able to access high-speed internet, especially in the rural areas. So, right, let's give empathy to them by building a PWA. And also we have yeah, it's also cheaper to develop. No, this is a good budget meal for startups actually. So if you're a startup that doesn't have much of a big fund or doesn't have funding yet, and you just wanted to really bring it to market faster, you could build a PWA first, then just bring it to the different stores afterwards. Also, why is that you could it's starting to be much like native apps, no? Just like earlier, it can access the camera, it can access the location, geolocation, your GPS. It could send you notification. It works offline, right? It's powerful. And additional reason why you wanted to build one, because even if I've shown you some examples earlier, there's not much progressive web apps here in the Philippines. Hence, um, that's why we are here today to introduce it to you so that if you'd like to, so let's say if you have an idea and you want to bring that idea to life without the big upfront cost of learning to build one for Kotlin or Java or for Objective C or Swift, you could try to just learn how to build a website and turn it into a web app. It's faster. So you could bring your ideas, your dreams faster. You could make it real faster. So that's why we're telling it to you now. And yeah. So let's look at the different technologies that PWS leverages. So we already know that it's a web app. So some of the things that we need to add to make it a progressive web app, first is of course to make it work very interactively. So it runs on HTTPS. It has a web manifest. Web manifest, something I'm going to show you later. It also has a service worker and has access to modern web APIs like the camera, geolocation, and more. So let's skip that. But it's just telling us that similarly to native apps that you get to download on the App Store, what you have to ship to your users is the view of the app. So the only thing you need to send them over the network afterwards is the data. Hence, we have this app shell model. So basically, it's the minimal HTML, CSS, JavaScript required to power the user interface. There you go. So as you can see here, the app shell is just the view for the different pages, but the content gets added after. So even when you're offline, the shell is being loaded So when they try to get back offline, you could just retrieve the content and show it to your users. So where do you begin? So you could these days, most people are going to choose from any of these frameworks or libraries. So example, we have Angular, we have Vue, we have React.js for that, um, and also we have Flutter. So if you build native apps for using Flutter, you could also use that to build one for the web. So just like what I've said earlier, the metadata and the service worker, what is that? So if you are a little bit introduced already to native app development, there's the metadata where you put the icons, title of the app, and more. So we also have that on progressive web apps, but it's a JSON file instead that contains the link or the URL to which the icons are located, the name of the app, and more. Um, like this one. Okay, the name, the icons in different sizes. Okay, and also you have the service worker, which is a script that controls the network. It serves as a middleman between the device, the network, and the network. So let's say you're offline, it would take over and would show you what is being cached through the browser. So even if when you're offline, you could use the progressive web apps you downloaded. So different caching strategies. So you can choose from different recipes there. If you want to always get the data from the server, that's good. That's okay also. But if you want to refresh only once in a while, you could also choose that as well. And to make it easier, we have Workbox, which is a tool that you could use to add service workers so that you don't have to deal with any of the the coding of that. Like let's say for example you have to put each of the files now. So you don't have to do that anymore. Workbox does it for you. Just look for Workbox. There you go. And yeah, that concludes my talk. But of course, since um, if you wanted to learn more about progressive web apps and you want to build one, we have a community organization for you. Even if you don't want to build, if you're just an enthusiast of the technology, if you believe in the technology, we have PWA Pilipinas, where we are a community organization for progressive web app enthusiasts, designers, and developers here in the Philippines. And our mission is to introduce and nurture progressive web apps development and adoption in the Philippines and beyond by fostering community for subject matter experts, enthusiasts, adopters, and designers of the platform, and also by providing resources and engagement to stimulate the interest of the technology here in the country. And our vision is that progressive web apps would be adopted here in the Philippines so that it could provide the best user experience to every Filipino in the Philippines and even beyond. And of course, I'm going to plug some of our events for August. We are going to celebrate our first anniversary this Thursday, August 6th. So if you want to join us and have fun, want to learn more about PWAs, we're live on Facebook and YouTube on August 6th at 8 p.m. So we're going to launch an app on that day, a progressive web app on that day. Also, we have progressive web app catch up Sunday. So if ever that you want to learn more about progressive web apps and you don't have anything to do on Sundays, you could just tune in to our Facebook Live at 8 p.m. to 10 in the evening. And we also have progressive web app Sabado sessions where we invite speakers to discuss different progressive web app topics. That happens every Saturdays, August 8th to 29th, every 7 p.m. So for this Saturday, we have um, invited the speaker that would tell you about how you can integrate or how can you make your Vue.js web apps into progressive web apps. So we have Trin Marbuado for that on August 8th at 7 p.m. So if you're interested, you can watch that live stream. And also we are at different social media networks. So we are on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Just search for PWA Pilipinas. So yeah. So thank you for uh, listening to my talk tonight. Okay, so I guess we have some questions, if there are any. Okay, so yeah, there's no question right now. So anyway, if you're interested about learning more about this, so just visit these social network accounts that we have. Okay, so with that, thank you once again for joining the session.
We all have our own biases of how things work. Like how would I design things? Like why would I design things in a certain way? Because in my head, I'm the one who's gonna use it. But in reality, right, what about everybody else? How are they gonna use this product?
In your team, you need to create that safe space that they can say whatever they want to say within the context of work pa rin, syempre. Like, if there's a certain process that needs to be cut, or if they think that we're having too many meetings in a week, sige, let's consider removing some.
Most of us are using mobile devices. Most of us are spending time online. So cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.